What is your go-to never-fail joke? A woman is sitting at her recently deceased husband's funeral. A man leans into her and asks, "Do you mind if I say a word?" No, go right ahead. The woman replies. The man stands, clears his throat, says plethora, and sits back down. "Thanks." The woman says, "That means a lot," stares into existence like I'm in the office. Why did the half-blind man fall into a well? He couldn't see that well. Why doesn't blind people clean up after their guide dog's mess? Because they can't see shit. Okay, but seriously, how do blind people clean up after their dogs? Are their dogs trained to point out their shit to their owner? Because that seems really weird. But I guess that's how it has to go. I've never thought about this before, but now I am having an existential crisis over this poor dog. Having to direct his owner to this massive turd he just did like some kind of walk of shame. Most guide dogs are females so that they can urinate while squatting. When they urinate, the handler can tell because the dog's back is straight. When they poop, their back is curved. When the handler feels the curved back, they can equip their hand with the poop bag and guide it down to the back of the dog, who has been trained to not react to this. As the dog stands, the handler's hand is in very close proximity to said pile of shit. A few swiping motions and it is easily found. At least that is what I heard a blind person say when they called into a morning radio show once. My dad asked me the other day, "Are you even listening to me?" Which is a really weird way to start a conversation if you ask me. This feels like a Mitch Hedberg joke. How do you think the unthinkable? Within the berg. I love this one. It's just so much fun to say. Two men are on opposite sides of a river. The first man shouts to the second, "How do I get to the other side of the river?" The second man shouts back, "You are on the other side of the river." "Hey O'Connell, looks to me like I've got all the horses." "Hey Benny, looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river." Greater than Mickey Mouse gets a call from his lawyer. The lawyer tells him, "Mickey, I'm sorry, but you can't divorce Minnie just because she's crazy." Greater than Mickey says, "I didn't say she was crazy. I said she was fucking goofy." 60% of the time. It works every time. What's the most important part of a joke? Timing. What did the cannibal get when he was late for dinner? The cold shoulder. Two cannibals are eating a man. Cannibal 1 is working on the shoulder, but Cannibal 2 has already gotten to the stomach. Cannibal 1, "I'm glad you're enjoying dinner." Cannibal 2, "Oh yeah? I'm having a ball." Cannibal 1, "Don't eat so fast." What do you get when you mix goat DNA and human DNA? Kicked out of the petting zoo. My grandfather has the heart of a lion and a lifetime ban from the San Francisco Zoo. "I stand corrected," said the man in the orthopedic shoes. Reminds me of my all-time favorite Onion headline. Jurisprudence fetishist gets off on a technicality. My absolute favorite followed closely by, police race to the scene of a car alarm monsieur. And, CIA realizes it's been using black highlighters all these years. Why do scuba divers fall backwards out of the boat? Because if they fell forwards they'd still be in the boat. Do you know why one side of the V formation that geese fly in is longer? There are more geese on that side. Do you know why flamingos always lift one leg while standing? Because if they lifted for both legs they'd fall over. Four guys are hanging out. One of them says, "Hey, did you know 1 out of every 4 guys is gay?" Larry says, "I hope it's Chuck because he's really cute." "Well, I am really cute. Thanks Larry." A man decides to quit his job and run away to join a pirate crew. After spending a few hours at the dock, he sees a man who has his peg leg, a hook hand, and an eye patch. The man is obviously a pirate captain. The man promptly joins the captain's crew and they ship out to sea that very day. Later that night, the man walks up to the captain and says, "I'm sorry, but I just can't hold back anymore. How did you get your peg leg?" Quote, the captain says, ARR. 'Twas me first day at sea as a young lad. A great big swell came from the sea and knocked me overboard. Before me crew could pull me out, a giant one-eyed fish swam up and bit off me leg. The man goes, that sounds terrible. What happened to your hand? Quote, the captain says, ARR. 'Twas me second day at sea. Another great big swell came from the sea and knocked me overboard. Before me crew could pull me up, the giant one-eyed fish swam up and bit off my hand. The man tells the captain it sounds like the fish has it out for him, and asks what happens to his eye. The captain says, ARR. 'Twas me third day at sea. I was looking up at the sky when a bird came and shat in me eye. The man says, and that's how you lost your eye? Quote, the captain responds, no, but 'twas me first day with a hook. Was the fish a red herring? Holy mackerel, I think you're onto something. You've heard of Murphy's Law, right? It says that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. But have you heard of Cole's Law? It's thinly sliced cabbage. I always start laughing halfway through the joke though, so usually the delivery isn't that good. Got halfway through saying it to my wife and couldn't finish it because I was laughing too much. Thanks. A man went to Spain on his vacation. He stopped by a restaurant and saw an interesting dish. He asked the waiter about it, who said, son las cojones del toro. The balls of the bull, sir. We serve it once a day after the bullfights. The man places an order for the next day, and leaves. When he comes back the next day and gets his dish, he looks at it for a minute and notices something is wrong. He calls the waiter over and says, excuse me, but why are these so much smaller than those from yesterday? The waiter pauses, looks around, and replies, I'm so sorry sir, but sometimes the bull does win. Edit. I can't Spanish. Thanks, I like tuna, Miguelo tuar, etc. Cojones are drawers. When does a joke become a dad joke? When it becomes apparent. No. When does a joke become a dad joke? When the punchline becomes apparent. When does the punchline become apparent? After the delivery. Thank you for helping me elevate my joke game. I don't always tell dad jokes, but when I do, he laughs. How many flies does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just 2, but I have no idea how they got in there. I like this joke, but I always just leave it hanging with an answer of 2. Greater than how many flies does it take to screw in a light bulb? Greater than 2. I've had people flummoxed for hours and eventually track me down later in the day to say, I finally got your stupid joke. Quote, the risk here is sometimes your friends are dumb and now they also don't think you're funny. A man on vacation with his family arrives at a hotel. As he's checking in, he says to the clerk, I'm on vacation with my family. Please make sure the porn channel is disabled. The clerk replies in disgust, it's just regular porn. You sick fuck. Me. I have a knock-knock joke, but you have to start it. Them. Okay. Knock-knock. Me. Who's there? Awkward silence. Just did this and my boyfriend said, I don't fucking know. The Buddha walks up to a hot dog stand and says, make me one with everything. The Buddha pays with a $20 bill and vendor hands him his hot dog and goes to help the next customer. The Buddha says, what about my change? And the vendor replies, change must come from within. And to finish off the trifecta, so Buddha pulls a gun on the vendor. Whoa, man, what about inner peace? Quote, Buddha responds, this is my inner peace. But then they hear sirens. A bystander had called the police. The Buddha takes his money back, and stands there and slowly begins to eat his hot dog. Someone says, aren't you going to run? Quote, the Buddha says, Namaste, every single time, without fail. This joke gets told and finished by different people on Reddit. It's beautiful. I slept with a blind woman the other night. It went pretty well. Mostly. Once the clothes came off she said to me, you have the biggest dick I have ever laid my hands on. I said, you're pulling my leg. I was on a blind date with this girl. And I told her, being funny is the second best way to get a girl into bed. She asked, what's the best way? I said, a big knife. She laughed and said, you're funny. I said, wise choice. You gotta hand it to blind hookers. There are 3 old ladies sitting on a park bench. A man in a trench coat walks by and flashes the monsieur. 2 of the old ladies have a stroke. The other one couldn't reach that far. A wife calls her husband and says, be careful driving home. Some complete moron is driving down the wrong side of the motorway. The husband replies, there's not just one. There's bloody hundreds of them. Quote. A lady approaches her priest and tells him, Father, I have a problem, monsieur. I have 2 female talking parrots, but they only know how to say one thing. What do they say? The priest inquired. They only know how to say, hi, we're prostitutes. Wanna have some fun? Single quote, quote. That's terrible. The priest exclaimed. But I have a solution to your problem, monsieur. Bring your 2 female parrots over to my house and I will put them with my 2 male talking parrots whom I taught to pray and read the Bible. My parrots will teach your parrots to stop saying that terrible phrase and your female parrots will learn to praise and worship. Thank you. The woman responded. The next day the woman brings her female parrots to the priest's house. His 2 male parrots are holding rosary beads and praying in their cage. The lady puts her 2 female parrots in with the male parrots and the female parrots say, hi, we're prostitutes. Wanna have some fun? Quote. One male parrot looks over at the other male parrot and exclaims, put the beads away. Our prayers have been answered. Quote. I've heard it differently, where at the end the female birds say, hello Father Michael. Quote. A DEA officer stopped at a ranch and told the rancher, I need to inspect your ranch for illegally grown drugs. The rancher said, okay, but don't go in that field over there, as he pointed out the location. The DEA officer verbally exploded saying, Mister, I have the authority of the federal government with me. Reaching into his rear pants pocket, he removed his badge and proudly displayed it to the rancher. See this badge? This badge means I am allowed to go wherever I wish. On any land. No questions asked. Do you understand? The rancher nodded politely, apologized, and went about his chores. A short time later, the old rancher heard loud screams, looked up, and saw the DEA officer running for his life, being chased by the rancher's big bull. With every step the bull was gaining ground on the officer, and it seemed likely that he'd sure enough get gored before he reached safety. The officer was clearly terrified. The rancher threw down his tools, ran to the fence and yelled at the top of his lungs, your badge. Show him your badge. Quote. An old Italian man lived alone in the country. It was spring and he wanted to dig his tomato garden, as he had done every year. But it was very hard work for the aging man as the ground was hard. His only son, Vincent, who used to help him, was currently in prison. The old man wrote a letter to his son and described his predicament. Dear Vincent, I am feeling pretty bad because it looks like I won't be able to plant my tomato garden this year. I'm just getting too old to be digging up a garden plot. If only you were here, my troubles would be over. I know you would dig the plot for me. Love, Dad. A few days later he received a letter from his son. Dear Dad, not for nothing, but don't dig up that garden. That's where I buried the bodies. Love, Vinny. At 4 a.m. the next morning, FBI agents and local police arrived at the old man's house and dug up the entire area. However, they didn't find any bodies, so they apologized to the old man and left. That same day the old man received another letter from his son. Dear Dad, go ahead and plant the tomatoes now. That's the best I could do under the circumstances. Love, Vinny. Dad is listening to his daughter say her prayers before bedtime. She says, God bless Mommy and God bless Daddy and God bless Grandma and goodbye Grandpa. He asks her, why did you say that? I don't know. I just felt like saying it. The next day, Grandpa drops dead. Wow, thinks Dad. That's an odd coincidence. A month later at bedtime, the daughter says, "God bless Mommy and Daddy," and "Goodbye, Grandma." Sure enough, the next day Grandma breathes her last earthly breath. The dad realizes this is more than a coincidence, but he is not sure what to do. He doesn't want to disturb his wife by telling her Grandma and Grandpa were her parents. Months go by and one night the man is listening to his daughter saying her prayers at bedtime. "God bless Mommy." She turns her head and looks straight at him, and "Goodbye, Daddy." "What? Are you sure, honey?" She nods. The man's heart begins racing and he breaks out in a sweat. He is so upset. He can't sleep at all that night. The next day, he goes off to work, but locks himself in his office. He takes the phone off the hook, cancels all his meetings and awaits the inevitable. He stays at work past 5 because he feels secure there. He watches the hours tick by. Finally it is midnight and, drenched in sweat, he realizes he has cheated death. He drives home drenched in sweat and with all his nerves frazzled. His wife is up and waiting for him. "Where the hell were you today?" He replies, "Don't shout. I've had an absolutely miserable day." His wife then says, "You had a miserable day? I'm the one who had a miserable day." First, the milkman drops dead on the steps. Fuck, that was a build-up that was good. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.